Hello, everybody. Pat Simmons, and I'm back with another reading excerpt for the 12 days of Christmas from my whatever. Okay, I'm not going to do this again. From my stash in my stack. Yeah, got it. Okay, so today I decided I would read an excerpt from a Noelle for Nathan. This is a real cute story about a teacher who can recognize the signs when some of her children are in distress. So, without further ado, let's get started. Noelle Foster couldn't exhale while studying the strikingly handsome man outfitted in a gray trench coat and hat and a bright yellow scarf that boasted a fashion lesson for any man. His backdrop was a light snow shower, creating a surreal vision as she stared out the restaurant window. He had a commanding presence among pedestrians on the sidewalk. He slipped a bill into the Salvation Army's red kettle without missing a stride. Ellie, Stephanie Moore, her friend called, rejoining her at the table with their food tray. Although she was starving after Stephanie dragged her on an impromptu shopping spree, Noelle couldn't even blink, afraid he would fade from her view, even if the burger's tempting aroma made her stomach growl. A beggar with tattered clothes blocked the man's pathway. She was curious about the man's next move. Would his generosity be limited to the kettle? How would the scene play out? It was one thing to give anonymously, but coming face to face with poverty was another. She gnawed on her lips. Would he turn the beggar away? What was this fascination she suddenly had developed? Girl, aren't you hungry? Stephanie whined, crunching on a fry at the same time. What are you looking at? She cranked her neck, peering through the large window that overlooked Washington Avenue in downtown St. Louis. Him, Noelle pointed. Not only was she an underdog for the poor, she also believed in putting her money where her heart was. Some of her coworkers at President Elementary School, where she taught, gave faithfully to the United Way through payroll deductions and declared they had done enough. How far could $10 or $20 get a family of 3 or 4? Anyway, that was her personal soapbox that few people shared. Ooh, Stephanie said, sucking in her breath. I wonder what he looks like under that hat and coat. That jawline, the precision trim of his thin beard is enough to make any woman want to test the texture. She sighed. There's a new sheriff in town. No, he fits the description of an outlaw. Will you stop salivating over that man and stick to your sandwich? Funny. Noelle hadn't touched hers either. She was over that guy. She was over what that guy was wearing. What was he saying to the beggar that interests her now? Suddenly, both men laughed, and that made her chuckle as if she was privy to the joke. I wonder what they're talking about. Who cares? Stephanie had angled her body to stare while sipping on her soda. Ooh, they're coming inside. I guess he's going to buy him a meal, she whispered and shifted in her seat. Taking a deep breath, Noelle relaxed. She unwrapped her turkey burger and mumbled, now that's a man after my own heart. She thrived on acts of kindness, which were magnified during the Christmas season. After that, kindness seemed to fade into the sunset. The two men walked into the deli. What a contrast. The man seemed unbothered by the company he was keeping as customers stepped back to give them space. They perused the menu before the benefactor ordered. All eyes were on the beggar while he scanned the dining room for a table, leaving a scent only a skunk could appreciate. Despite her convictions, Noelle wasn't immune, so she held her breath. But she refused to cast an evil eye at the hungry man. Soon the pair sat at a table on the other side of the room. Some people were so offended they gathered their food and stormed outside into the cold. But the beggar's benefactor seemed unfazed as he removed his hat to expose a perfectly shaped head. She shivered, experiencing the chill for him. Or maybe he had that effect on any woman. The beggar blessed his food with a sign of the cross before attacking his meal, as if knowing his presence was unwanted. His dining companion ate unrushed, making Noelle wonder if his senses were shut down. Minutes later, the beggar stood to leave. The gentleman handed him a card. The man nodded and waved his thanks before disappearing into his forgotten world, hidden in plain sight. You ready? Stephanie gathered their bags filled with items for the homeless students on the school's Christmas list. Noelle got to her feet and bunkled up. Instead of following Stephanie out the door, she detoured to the table where the benefactor remained seated. Even though the beggar was gone, his calling card fragrance lingered. She tried not to gag. He was tapping on his smartphone. He glanced up and met her eyes. They were kind but intense, pulling her into a trance until she almost blushed. But she didn't. Noelle wasn't a flirt. She blinked, but he didn't. Next, his eyes focused on her lips before she could speak. Excuse me, she said softly. That was a nice thing you did. Pay it forward. He paused, as if he wanted to say more, but didn't. Noelle nodded, smiled, and walked out the door to brace the wind. You have no idea. She was a fourth grade teacher with a master in reading who paid it forward with her students every day. That's why years earlier, using funds from her own pocket, she began bringing healthy snacks for her students. Some of them were always hungry. They could earn those snacks with classroom participation. Stephanie was a school social worker and kept a stash of extra clothes and even toiletries. They had long ago tweaked the No Child Left Behind Act to No Child Will Do Without. This year, the Christmas list for those in need had 5 more families than the 7 from the previous year, which sparked this shopping spree. Although most children asked for practical things like blankets, socks, backpacks, one little girl requested a ballerina. Yes, Noelle was going to pay it forward this time, since she and Stephanie decided to pay for 2 girls to see the Nutcracker. Those tickets were $50 a piece, plus tax. Money wasn't everything to Nathan. That's what his grandfather, Kaplan Andersen, the founder of the family business Andersen Investments and Consultants, had drilled into his children's heads. It worked, so his father, Kenneth, passed the torch to his 3 sons the moment they were potty trained. As the oldest, Nathan tried to lead by example growing up. He attended an Ivy League college, so did his brothers. Next, they created a subsidiary of the family's business to nurture the path for minority inventors. His younger brothers fell in line behind him. He was the leader. Despite all his successes, Nathan had failed when it came to his home life. He had none. Christian, the second oldest, became a full-time daddy to 3 girls and 1 boy the moment he said, I do, to the former Joy Knight. Remember, I read that story, A Christian Christmas? Anyhow, David, who met Valerie Hart after a chance encounter on Valentine's Day, married a year later. Now, they were expecting their first child. Nathan was reluctantly the unattached Andersen son, because whoever the Lord had for him hadn't shown herself. He shook his head and positioned his hat on his head to leave the restaurant. How did he go from accepting a compliment for something he was expected to do as a Christian to reflecting on his bachelor status? You want more? Hey, you have to download your copy of A Noelle for Nathan. And please forgive me for my slip ups. I don't rehearse these excerpts before I read. So some of these books I haven't read in about 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. So at any rate, and I noticed that this book is similar to Waiting for Christmas with the theme of helping others. And that's what I put in all my Christian Christmas novella. So thank you for joining me. I think this is what, number 8. Join me tomorrow for number 9, number 10, number 11, as we count down to Christmas. Don't forget, subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit me at patsimmons.net. Bye.